Thank you guys for joining tonight. And tonight's coaching call is going to be on momentum. So it's getting us, once we start doing and getting ourselves more productive during the week or more productive during our sessions, how do we take the things that are, that we're doing well and accelerate that and slow down the things that are pulling us backwards. So in tonight's call, we'll go for an hour. And if you do have your journals, this would be the perfect time to start journaling, taking some notes. As we do every week, we want to make sure to be present for this hour so we can find the one, we're not looking for everything that we can get, but if you can just leave and find the one key thing or the one little thing that you can pull out of tonight to start, putting into practice immediately to start making these shifts. So a lot of stuff we'll talk about may be a lot of things that we talk about may be a lot of information. So that being said, just take the things that are going to help you right now and start putting those into play. And we can always come back and watch the recordings and get, anything else that we want to get out of it, right? From the other key things and key points that we'll discuss tonight. So again, tonight's coaching is going to be on generating momentum. And again, that is going to be accelerating the things that are already going well and continuing it to go forward, and slowing things down that are pulling us backwards or making that shift in the things that are pulling us backwards. I thank you guys all for taking the time out of your evening to join us. There's a lot of things that you could be doing. So as always, every week I will dump in as much of my best self or all of my best self as I can to make sure you guys are able to make, the shifts and getting the strategies that you need to take you guys to the next level. We'll come to that at a different time, but as we talk about momentum and, you can all think about certain experiences or moments that you might have got where, no matter what type of golf shot you guys are trying to hit, you found tremendous success, but the opposite also happens. Maybe we have moments or days or weeks where no matter what we try, no matter what we're doing, even if it's been so successful before, we've done everything in our session and, nothing seems to work. Sometimes you start off really great and then you start to decline, and you either tell yourself or somebody tells you, if you're playing with some friends, that wow, you finally got back to reality, because I don't know who that other person was. And maybe you might talk to yourself and define yourself as, and I've done it in the past, but define ourselves as a choker. I played so well, and then I just choked coming in the last 3 holes or the back 9 of my event or the back 9 of my round. Or maybe you're one of those that start off really strong or start off really slow, and then you start to play better as the round goes on, and you finish really strong, and you create a story identity for yourself that you're just a strong closer, but you're just not a good opener, right? Doesn't matter how much you practice, doesn't matter how much you warm up, you always start off the same way. And sometimes it's a blend of everything, where you just get bits and pieces that pull you up, bits and pieces that pull you down, and then we start telling ourselves, or we start looking for tools and strategies and tips on how can we become more consistent. That's like a big word that we always use in golf. We often, one of the most common things that I hear is, I just want to be more consistent in what I do. So, and so the one thing, from playing golf for the past 30 years and 30 plus years in coaching and instructing for the past 12 years or so. Doesn't matter where you are in your performance, whether you're just starting off, whether you're playing high level events or just getting into tournaments, you'll always hit cycles that pull you up and pull you down. And we'll always need strategies to kind of get you back on pace so you can play at your best self, and find ways to pull you back into preparing and practicing for your best self. So, you know, a lot of times we're searching for that just one little swing tip or thing that we read, or that one little piece of advice that changes everything, to give us the good result that we want. And sometimes we make it super technical and we get overwhelmed in the entire process of like, I'm so far behind, or I've been struggling with this for so long that, I gotta, restructure all of this stuff. And I'm here to tell you that, kind of looking back at everything, we do make it a lot more complex than it should be. Even when we're getting like tons and tons of success, we're playing like the best golf that we've played in our lives for this entire week, and we want to keep on going. We even turn that into too complex of a problem or too complex of a process, and that sometimes goes sideways. So this may sound simple, but just basic philosophy of success is, you want to do more of the things that are making you better, more of the things that are serving you, and you just want to do less of the things that are not. And as simple or as basic as that sounds, if we think about, do we even know what things are making us successful, what things are getting us to perform at that higher level, getting us to break through certain obstacles that we may have thought was impossible at one time in our career, and we got through it. And do we even know some of the things that we're doing, do we even know some of the things that we're doing that's keeping us from getting to our next level, or allowing our performance to decline and to get into one of those, places where it doesn't matter what we do, it just feels like it just keeps on getting worse. One of the big things is we have received over, if you play golf long enough, we have received those magical advice where my golf instructor, golf coach, my friend, my teammate, somebody just told me to go ahead and do this, and it worked. And we found like massive success in that one session. And when we look at how often that happened, that's so rare that happens, but it does happen from time to time when, it does align with what you're working on. It does align with, the psychology of how you're thinking. It does align with the pattern that you're swinging the golf club or the approach that you're taking, and then you find massive success. But we often label that as like, oh, I just learned this one little thing, go ahead and swing it like this and I'll hit it good, right? And we do it that way, then we really don't know what is creating that success, but we get it from time to time. And because it's so simple, because it's just one piece of advice, take it back like this, swing it right here, go ahead and move your feet like this, right? Oh, your alignment's a little bit left, and that seems to change everything. All right, but we don't know the exact process of why that's working. So it conditions us to just go down that road and find like those simple little fixes that are, basically those surface little fixes that I'm going to do from time to time that may or may not work. And we get super excited when they do work. The one issue with doing that is we tend to like always be searching, because we're always trying to get to that next level. But like one day we'll try this one, or even in like a practice session, I'll try, oh, my teammate told me to do this, my coach told me to do this, my friend told me to do this, and and I tend to get all of this, you tend to get all this different advice all kind of coming down into one, and we're trying to figure which one is the one that's gonna, get me to that next level or get me to hit the ball the way I want to hit it. So one thing we find with those as well is like when they work, they often don't work for very long. So if I'm thinking of a very specific tactical swing fix of, swing it this specific way, take it back to this position at the top, like we could be thinking of that for the next 7 days and working on it, and we'll get different results every day. Maybe it might last 2-3 days, or maybe last week, but eventually that no longer works, and then it starts going sideways again. So it's looking a little bit deeper into figuring out like, what is it that I'm really searching for, and what strategy can I stick to? So then I can kind of move some of the tactical pieces, the swing tips of like, try this today, do this, and see what's working for the day, but achieving that same, purpose and mission that you're shooting for, and that your entire golf game's aligned with. So as we talk a lot about a lot of our structure here, it's just about laying down certain foundational steps to get us to see like really like big picture stuff, and then slowly kind of bring that down to be narrow into the very, very like tactical swing tips. And so anytime we get a swing tip, a specific advice on what to do, does it match with that entire big picture of like, this is where I need my game to be? And then as it comes down, right, when we're doing a swing tip, does it align with everything in that little funnel that we have? So one of the first things I want to share with you is just have an audit of your beliefs and stories. So what that means, if you audit your beliefs and stories, just do you know and go through all the stories and everything that you ever learned to get you to where you're at, right? You have to know what made you successful. It can be in golf, it could not be in golf, but for me, this is probably one of the most powerful tools that I've ever did in my life, right? And it didn't just help me with golf, it kind of helped me with everything. It's, it's finding the stories that are automatic in my life. And if we go with golf, what are the stories that, seem to come up over and over again that keeps me in that mindset to strive for success? And what are they doing, and what habits are they're allowing me to do? So such as like, I would want to know excuse me, I'd want to know when I'm playing my best golf, what is it that I'm doing that allows me to play my best golf? What am I thinking as I'm going through my practices? Or even if I'm going to audit like my round of golf, my stories and my beliefs, I'll be looking at what's my process of getting up to each shot? Every time I hit it well, every time I find tons of success, what am I thinking of? How am I getting myself into that highest performance state? Do I feel like I'm slower? Do I feel like I'm faster? Am I more engaged to be more visual? Whatever that is. And, recall the last few rounds that you've played. And even if you didn't play the best for the entire round, find the holes that you did really well and take an audit of that. What was it that I was thinking of? How did I perform? And create these stories for you. I'll give you I fished all my life, so I'll give you a little fishing, analogy, and how our stories and beliefs, they change and they shape us into, what we do. So we always hear, if you've ever gone fishing, stories get passed on from one thing to another. So there's the common story that every year the fish seems to get bigger. So by the time it gets to like our generation, we might say, oh my gosh, there was this incredible, fish that was caught on my grandfather's boat that was like so big, right? It was just huge and tremendous, and it weighed so many pounds, 50 pounds, right? And that's the story that we then share. But we get so excited in the moment that every year we share it, that 50 pounder then turns to like, oh, it's been like 55 pounds. But if you kind of trace it back to time with that fishing story, it might have started with 50 years ago. It was just a 5-pound little fish that looked like this, but it was just such an incredible story that, you know, when it got passed on with so much excitement, that 5-pounder came into a 10-pounder. They couldn't believe how big that thing was. And then it passed on again, 20 pounds, and it continues to grow. So, you know, that happens in any story that we tell ourselves. I can share with you the first birdie. Well, kind of first birdie that I made, right? It got disqualified eventually, but the way I remember it now, and the more I tell it, is with more excitement. I remember I wasn't old enough to play from the tee markers growing up as a junior golfer, but there was a par 3 17th hole at the course that we played on Kauai called Wailoa. So it's a signature hole. You're hitting from up top, and then it's going down with the ocean in the background, and it's, you know, a beautiful hole, right? So you're hitting into the ocean, the green's down below, the horizon and the ocean is directly behind it. So literally, if you can picture 10 yards over the green is already the beach. So if you hit it over that, it's OB. In front of it, there's a bunker on the left of the green. There's also a bunker in the front and a bunker on the right. So there's bunkers surrounding the whole front. And, you know, there's a cart path that runs right in front of the bunkers of where you're going to drive the carts to get to the next tee. So I remember I don't remember the exact age I was, but I was definitely under 10. And I played from the forward tees, and I remember that the distance there was probably about 90 yards or so, but you're hitting from the top, so it wasn't as far as 90 because you have the elevation. And at that time, I couldn't hit it that far. So I must have been like 8 years old or so. But I remember standing up there, and I took this swing with this borrowed too long 7-wood that I think my sister might have had. She's 6 years older than me, so it was definitely too big. But I borrowed her club. It might have been my mom's, but I borrowed a too big 7-wood, and I swung it, and like I missed the ball, totally whiffed it. And then the very next shot, you know, I crushed it, and it was going so perfectly in the air, and I couldn't believe how well I hit it. And the ball landed on the road, bounced, I don't even know, 20 feet in the air. So the cart path's running in front of the bunkers, bounced like 20 feet in the air, landed over the bunkers, and rolled to probably about 6 inches or so from the hole. And I ran up there. I didn't even ride the cart, ran up there, and then I tapped it in, and I made a 2. Which then got disqualified because my sister goes, you didn't make a birdie, you whiffed the first one, that counts as 1. But the reason why I remember it so clearly, one, is because the first 2 I thought I made wasn't really celebrated, but it was like denied by my sister. She's like, what are you talking about? You got a 3. You missed the first one, hit the next one, and tapped it in for 3. But the reality is, like, as I recall some of that stories, even from with my brother and sister who was there, right? It wasn't such an incredible shot that I hit. It was, you know, it was a horrible, poor looking swing. I made the first one. I got lucky on the second hit. It kind of flew in the air, hit the road, bounced on the green, and went within a foot or 2 feet. And, you know, I made that putt, and it went in, right? So my point is, like, the way I remember it now, it's so real and it's so detailed that I find this excitement on like what I thought, what I believed at that time, that even though I missed it, I could still crush this ball, when the reality is I probably, like from what they're telling me, I didn't really crush it. I just kind of whacked it, and it still flew on the path. But over the course of, you know, almost 30 years now, 29, 30 years since that happened, right? It seems to be more exciting. It seems like those shots get even better. How it flew and hit the cart path and carried over the bunker and rolled inches from the hole seems to be like more and more real. That, you know, our stories told over time, over and over, those are the things that become real. So, you know, as we're going back into, finding the stories that we have in our life, that we discount a lot of things that we just take for granted because it just happens, and creating a place where um, you access those stories of the great moments, the great holes, of what did you feel going through these things, because those are the things that you want to say so often to make those beliefs so real, right? If I go back in that story, or even some of the fishing stories that I remember, like some of the fish that I would tell now are like huge, right? But in reality, when you're 10 years old, they're probably not that big. They just look huge. But it gets me so excited to go back and fish those same places year after year when I go back home to Kauai. And so, find the stories, do an audit on all the stories that are giving you the success, but then you're trying to relive those things over and over, and over time they become like a part of your psychology, a part of your mindset, part of what gives you excitement around the shots that you have, because those are the things that you need to create on purpose and put more into the parts of your game, in the process of your game, that's going to get you to move on. The flip side to that is you also want to know what are the common stories and beliefs that you constantly tell yourself that you're not getting. What are the things that are giving you, that you're associating to below average or poor results, as you might define them? You'll think about every time you miss a certain putt, what do you tell yourself? Oh man, that was a bad putt. Or you might have a different like frame in your head that says it in a worse way. And we condition ourselves to always, if we always miss these putts, or if we're always around the green and we chunk our chips or blade our chips, we say, oh, horrible chip. Was it, is your chipping horrible? Or, are there certain moments that you chip below average? So as you're playing and as you're practicing, you want to create, a list of what are the common things that you're constantly saying to yourself. So, like, every time these happen, this is the common, stories and beliefs that I'll tell myself around the performance of my game. So as we're getting through, like, what are the successful stories? What are the stories and beliefs? What are the stuff we associate to unsuccessful things? Because those things will constantly come up. And if you don't know when they're coming up, or you're not designing them to come up on purpose, then, that's where there's a lot of room for you to grow. I remember, reading a story of, Fred Couples. He's highly successful. He's won the Masters a couple of times. He's on the Champions Tour now, but definitely going to be, a World Golf Hall of Famer when he retires. And at one point in his career, number one in the world. But I remember reading a story that, before he hits every single shot, he then recalls himself hitting the perfect shot with that club in that scenario in some time in his life. So every single shot he hits, he recalls these moments that has given him so much success, that he has so much confidence and certainty walking up there, that there's no doubt coming in. And so, if he's not taking all of these moments aside from him playing and like listing, and I don't know if he's written them down, but definitely he's thought about how many successful moments has he had with his 9-iron, his 7-iron, his driver, every single club in his bag, because he won't hit a golf shot unless he can first get himself in a place where he remembers a successful moment that he's trying to relive in the present time. But two, once you know how to filter out the negative stuff, like not the negative stuff, but the stories and beliefs around negative situations, you could then start to create a way around it. So, you can always ask yourself the question, like, let's say we're around the greens and we're struggling with chipping this month. So you tend to like either chunk or blade your chips for most of the round. And we have this real negative belief around, oh man, I'm just horrible at chipping. I can't get this. I understand it, but I can't get it. I keep on doing the same thing over and over. All right. And sometimes we start living the emotion as opposed to living like the real results, right? And you saying I'm a horrible chipper, I can't get this, I keep on doing the same thing, has nothing to do with the actual outcome coming out. As opposed to just say I thin the chip, you kind of just rephrase it every time you remove the negative emotional statement. You just say I thinned it, I chunked it, and then what can you do from there? Right? Always ask yourself the question. There is roughly 60 million, maybe a little more than 60 million golfers out in this world right now. So if you ask yourself the question, has somebody ever thinned golf shots and hit them thin or chunked them around the greens just like me and still achieve massive success around the golf course? And if you think about it, with 60 plus million people that play this golf, I mean, your answer has to be yes. Even if there's just one person that, came on and says like, I had my best round chunking it and thinning it all day, and for some reason I made long putts or whatever it might have been, somebody has found massive success being in the scenario that we're struggling in. So we're starting to create this audit of your successful beliefs and then planting them in the process so you can start doing them more often, but also getting all the negative associated beliefs and stories and reframing those to having some truth behind it. So it's not just, I'm a bad chipper, or I'm a horrible chipper, or I'm a slicer of the golf ball, which causes me to shoot 90 or 100 or 80, whatever it might be. You'd rephrase that just to what it is, right? It's, I thin my chips, so now I can anticipate how my next chip's going to go. So you then change the structure, right? The moment you thin it, instead of saying I'm a horrible chipper, you're like, oh, well, that's a thin shot. Now I know my chipping is thin for the day. I can anticipate for that. We change the strategy going on. So maybe it's using a different club. Maybe don't use your sandwich, or maybe use a 7-iron, maybe use a hybrid, maybe use your putter. Same with if you chunk it, or if you're a slicer of the golf ball, instead of just saying like, oh man, I can't drive the ball today, right? Just say, my ball's slicing 25 yards today, right? Allows you to see what's going on. And then you attach something like, well, it's slicing 30 yards. So I can either use a different club, or I can aim 30 yards to the left and slice it into the fairway, right? So you're not trying to recreate and hope for the better result doing the same thing. So as we go through this, you definitely want to, one of the tools that I want you guys to do kind of going into your audit of your belief and stories is just write down the 5 stories that have given you the most success. So think about moments, think about rounds, what you went through, and kind of be descriptive about it and kind of bring that in there. What's 5 things that you've done, your most common stories that come up over and over again when you're having the most success on the golf course? Like when let's say you're a good driver of the golf ball, every time you hit the golf ball, you might say, wow, I'm so good at driving, right? Or you're creating an identity around like how you're playing, right? Those are the things that you want to write down, 5 of those. Also, create the 5 most common stories that constantly come up in your golf game, right? Around the areas that you struggle the most in, the one that comes up when you're playing, the things that come up when you're practicing, whether I'm chunking it all the time, I'm thinning it all the time around this yardages, and and go from there. And once you have those 5 little stories and beliefs down, then you redesign them into something that you can use when you're on the golf course. So the moment you say, I'm a bad chipper today, you would catch yourself and then say, well, I thinned it today. What can I do next? What can I do when it comes up again? So we're constantly looking to re-engineer these stories. As we go on, to another one that I want to share with you guys, it's going to be, how to level up your best, or how do you next level your best and level up, your weakest. If you look in You know, if you look in everything that we do, you know, we always love doing the things that we find the most success in. Um, and we constantly do it over and over again, right? For golf, for me, I love hitting drivers, right? That's because I find the most success in my driving, right? I've gained the most over the shortest period of time in the last, you know, several years of my golf in my driver, where I could make little shifts and I can do it. So I love hitting drivers. So my favorite is drivers. So that means when I get to the course, everything that I'm doing, if I'm going to practice, goes towards hitting those drivers. So if you guys know any, you guys have any aspect of your game that you enjoy doing, it's probably because like you're the strongest in that area. That's probably where you find the most success. If you're a really good putter, typically really, really good putters love putting. The people that have really, really good wedge games love hitting wedge shots, right? So think about the best things that we do. We already have that excitement to want to do it. And also when we look at, you know, level up your weakest, that means what's the one aspect of our game that causes us the most shots. And, you know, that's directly associated with typically those negative beliefs that we put around certain areas of our game, where I'm a bad chipper, I chunk it all the time. Or is it all the time, or is it just today? Or is it just, you know, 80% of the time? Because at some point you hit good chips. Or I'm a slicer of the golf ball, right? We create these identities. So typically those negative identities or beliefs and stories, those are the parts of the game that we're struggling in. But if you have a hard time figuring that out, it's like, what area of my golf game is the area that's causing me the most shots that I can save, right? And, you know, looking in there is, if every round that I chip, I feel if you associate yourself with as a, you know, below average or poor chipper, every time you chip, how many shots are you wasting chipping it twice? Or how many shots are you wasting it because you chip it to 30 feet as opposed to 15 feet, or 40 feet instead of 10 feet, whatever it may be, right? And you're associating to like values. But you know what most of us do in this situation is we love doing the things we do best, right? And you want to be able to take advantage of the things that you do best because you have this excitement. For me, I love hitting drivers. So it's easy on paper to just say, start working on other things and get more excited about things that you're not good at. So think about, like, anytime anybody's told you, like, if you're struggling with putting, go ahead and putt, right? Putt more often. How excited are you to putt? Which means you'll get to the putting green. It might last for a good day. It might last for several sessions. And then it's something that you won't be able to sustain consistently over time, right? You got to come with a different mindset, leveling up, you know, next level my strengths, the best part of my game, and just level up my weak parts. So when we get excited about, let's say, hitting drivers, for me, you have to say, am I hitting drivers just because I love doing it and I'm maintaining what I'm doing? Or am I working on something to make my driving better than what it was? Because if you just show up and you just start hitting drivers because you're good at it, right, you're not taking your skill any further. So think about, like, I'll use the analogy of chipping, right? My chipping might be, well, I'll use my analogy here. My putting is probably the one that cost me the most shots when I play. And that's also the aspect of the game that cost me the most shots. So let's say my putting is here, but my driving is way up here, right? So as I play, like, I love hitting drivers and I don't like putting. And when I start to figure out, like, how do I level up my driving, hold on one second. One second. sorry, how do I level up my driving as well as keeping it exciting? Because that's the one opportunity that you get because you're exciting to not just hit the driver, to just not do it. To maintain, you're actually trying to increase your skill level because your excitement is so high. So if you're excited to hit drivers, for me, I'm always, every session that I have driving, I'm looking at, right, how can I squeeze a little bit more distance out of it? So putting a little bit more speed, a little bit more power, and to see what can I do to still keep it within like the window that I'm trying to hit it, right? And if I can't squeeze any more distance, how can I get that window even more narrow? Or looking at tools to boost up, like if I hit it 10 yards further, what does that make my window look like, to see, can I use that if it gets wider on the course and hit it that hard or swing it that fast, right? It's always trying to figure out how to level that up. And for my driving, my level up is I want to hit it further and further without compromising penalty shots or recovery situations. So it doesn't necessarily mean I got to hit it in this window every single time, because every course that I play is a little bit different. So for me, if I know that I'm hitting my driver on my carry consistently at 280 yards in a 60-yard window, like that's my standard. I'm always trying to see, can I get it to 290 and what does that look like? If I can get it to 295 during certain conditions, what does that look like? Or if I'm hitting at 290, I can tell you my window is closer to like 75, 80, and I'm swinging extremely hard. But is that useful when I play? Sometimes, right? Sometimes I'll have a hole that, is wide open, and to know that, I can squeeze it 10 more yards and it's so wide open that there's no trouble. Chance of me going left and right, I may go, but I can also hit it down the middle, right? And it's good for me to take the risk. So I'm exploring and seeing, and then I'll go ahead and hit this thing as far as I can to try and get that out there, right? So I'm always trying to level up, the things that I do best. And, when we look at our putting, right? Where's our putting? My putting for me that's a thing that keeps me from shooting the extremely low scores that I would like to when I play, right? But also because it's my lowest one, it's not the most exciting thing for me. And for me, it's going to be a huge change and shift for me to make time and take away from my driver to put it in putting at this moment in my life. So I come up with alternatives, because I don't need my putting right now to go like super, super, next level. I just got to level it up to make it a little bit better every time. And can I do that with, a little bit more disciplined practice, a little bit more intentional practice, and it's 100%, right? The time that I practice putting is, for me right now, is going to be when I play golf. So the days that I play golf, I'll get there early and I'll set up some time, 30 minutes or so practicing putting, but then it's super intentional putting and of me working little drills for me to hit my ball solid. If I hit my ball solid, I'll keep my ball on line and I'll get the pace a little bit better. The days that I putt poorest and I don't get it to convert, I typically miss it putts thin. So when I hit it thin, it kind of goes sideways off the face, and I don't convert on the shorter, less than 10-foot putts as much as I would if I hit it solid. So for me, I'm super clear on the result that I'm getting, that, me hitting more solid putts from where I'm at gets me at a better place. Could I add extra days? Yeah, 100%. But I'm just looking like to level up, just, take it to the next level to make that a little bit better every time I go out and play. Because now it's, it's a lot more sustainable, that I can be consistent every single time that I go out and play, right? What can I do consistently? I could definitely design myself to say like, now 3 days a week, I got to do putting. But if I only do it for a month and I can't continue that, then my performance goes back down. So it's a lot better to implement things that are in your practice that you can sustain over a long period of time. Because now as I go through these putting and as I play more, right, maybe there's another day that I'll say, well, I'll add 10 minutes on another day to do it. And can I do that consistently? And for me, And for all of you guys to think, right? Think about when you start making adjustments to your schedule, can you do it on a consistent basis? Because that's the number one thing that's going to give you drive to change. It's not the week that you put in more effort than last week, or the week that you put more time, or the month that you put. It's about, you know, these little shifts that you're doing, but can you do it for the rest of your life? Can you do it for the rest of your season and onto the next several years? Because as you can do it that often, then you're able to stack on another level, right? And then another level. It's all about, the consistency that you put in, that frequency that you're able to sustain. So, so yeah, it's the consistency and the longevity that drives your results, nothing else, right? If you're consistent and you do it all the time and you're getting the same results, right? Then you have to find the next level strategy or the next level tool to become consistent and drive the results again, right? Again, a lot of times we look for that one magical, that one magical thing that's going to get us to the next level. That one magic swing tip, that one magic, like take your club this way or stroke it like this and you'll get it to make everything click. But the reality is, even when we find those don't last. So find the consistency that you want, to drive the results that you need. So in this little tool here, your next level, next level your best and level up your weakest. You want to get your journals and write out what's the number one thing that you like doing no matter what. And then create a plan to create the next level for that category. And that's where, clarity comes in. If you're, like, for instance, if my driving is good, right, I need to know what is my next level for my driving, because if I don't know what that is, then I'm just hitting balls and I'm maintaining. I might not even be maintaining, right? So get extreme clarity on, like, if you're trying to next level your best, what does that look like? You have to have a clear picture on what does that next level look like for you, right? And then also get that clear picture on where am I currently. If I'm currently, for me in driving, I'm currently hitting it, about 280 to 80, 285 in the air in a 60-yard window. So I'm always striving to beat that control. That is like my control, 280, 60 yards, 285, 60 yards. I'm always trying to beat that control and seeing what happens, right? And that's how I'm trying to fill the gap and get to that next level. That next level is I want to get to 295 within that same window, right? So I can keep the same playability, right? So, and two, right? What is the number one, what's the number one thing or the weakness in your game that's causing you the most shots in your game, right? Maybe the most frustration in your game, and you're looking to just like level that one up, right? Not even take it to an entire new level. Like for me, it's the putting. How do I how do I get myself to hit putts more solid, more consistently? Because I know when I hit my putts solid, my speed's good and my line is good. So then the only thing that makes me miss putts is my misinterpretation of how I read the undulations of the green if I'm hitting putts solid. All right. So for you, write down the number one thing causing you the most shots or maybe the most frustrations during your round. And, again, seek that clarity. What is it? What does it look like for your next level in that? So if your next level is hitting your driver further, what does further look like to you, right? How much further? What does the shape look like? Or if it's chipping, what does the next level of chipping look like? Is it more solid? How much closer to the hole? What outcome are you searching for to achieve in that next level? And then come back to where am I at right now? Where's my current situation? Because I got to know what the standard is in my skill level. So then I can see where is that next level, and I can create a plan, right? That fits with the time that I have to fill that gap, right? If we're trying to make huge shifts, and let's say I blade every single chip shot, and then you go to, I really don't like chipping, but I want to like level up that thing and hit perfectly pure shots like a college player or a tour player and get it within 5 feet, right? That's a huge, huge jump. And for you to get there fast, right? Creates lots of time, lots of reps, lots of coaching, lots of everything. And then you'd say, can you sustain all of those changes in the long run, right? The more things you start stacking on, harder it is to sustain. So if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't fit you creating consistency and longevity around it, then you got to make it a little bit more simple just to level yourself up. So, and finally, I do like the thought of creating like-minded support and growth communities. And so what that means is just surrounding yourself around people that are like-minded, are driven like you guys. If you guys are taking the time to join me on this call to get yourself in a better place, that means you're sacrificing, time that you could be doing hanging out with friends, could be doing watching TV, playing video games, doing anything else, but you're looking to make yourself and turn yourself into better golfers and better human beings. So find people that are like you, that are always striving to get to that next level, and start to associate them, start to build communities with them. If you've ever felt like, I love the term that I love the phrase, I don't know who I've heard it from, but it's been used like everywhere. Or well, not everywhere, but it's been used by like many different people, that we go faster together, right? You go faster and further together. And there's a ton of different variations of, how people say it, but the gist of it is, we go faster and further together as a group. There's a author and back in the 1900s, wrote a bunch of books, but he was in the early 1900s. His name is Napoleon Hill, and he didn't come up with it, but he wrote it in his book. He had a book called what was it? I wrote it down here. Think and Grow Rich. And I'll kind of read you this quote from his book that I really like. And he talks about like being in a like-minded group. So he says, actually, before I kind of go into like what he did, he wrote a bunch of successful books in the past, and he was one of the first people to actually interview the most successful people in the world during his era in the early 1900s, and find out what do they do that makes them so successful, right? What are the things that they do, the habits that they do, like who they associate with, right? And then so he started wrote these books on success principles. But he had written in this book saying, and it's a quote that says, "The coordination of knowledge and effort of two or more people who work toward a definite purpose in the spirit of harmony. No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third invisible tangible force, which may be likened to a third mind, the mastermind." So if you kind of think about what that means, right? Again, the coordination of knowledge and effort of two or more people who work towards a definite purpose in the spirit of harmony. No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third invisible tangible force, which may be likened to a third mind, in parentheses, the mastermind. So he calls it the mastermind. When groups work together, it's not just myself and you and having two minds, right? Our thoughts together create a third, more powerful mind, which they call the mastermind. And, what he's found with tons and tons of successful people that are able to get to that next level faster. It's not that you can't get there alone. You just get there tremendously faster when you work with others who are moving in the same direction as you. That you create this third mind, the mastermind, that drives the entire group to the next level. And it's solely off of the principle of just trying to get there yourself. So now, when you think about how have you gotten the furthest in your career, right? It's always having the ability to ask for help. It's having the ability to brainstorm with people in your classroom, brainstorm with some friends to get, better ideas? Have you ever got an idea from, a peer, a friend, a parent, a teacher, a coach, a mentor, anybody else that gave you like mind-blowing advice that's like, oh my gosh, that just saved like days, months, years off of if I tried to figure that out myself, right? And we get glimpses of these things. So, the power of creating this support and growth community is just to be doing it on purpose. Some of you may already have groups like that. You may have groups that are like if you have mobile phones, you may have like group texts that you're in with people that you like hanging around, that you share all these things with. And you may also share things that you're struggling with, that you're having a hard time with. And, maybe they send you a little note to just, feel better and think about this and help you get through whatever struggle you might be getting, just knowing that there's somebody over there that, that cares and is looking for you to get through that next level. But also the effect of you seeing somebody, struggling, and you putting in your advice of what you learned, right? Because maybe it resonates with them and they can make that shift. But also praising like some of the accomplishments that others have gotten, that you'd be sharing, or that others got, saying, oh, way to go. And maybe that little extra thing that you mentioned based on like a success that they had would boost them to the next level, because they wouldn't have took it from that perspective, right? So, with me, I have several groups that I'm a part of, and it's all on purpose of how we're trying to create this momentum in our life, right? Never comes by accident that people get momentum and they continue to strive and keep on moving forward, right? I have one that is set with me, Seiko, and another friend and coach of ours, that Giselle, that we do these morning MSP like videos just to set our gratitude and intention every single day, right? Every single morning, that's like our little collaborative group. We share our things every morning, set the intention for gratitude every day. So there's stuff in there that, it allows me to open up and not necessarily would have shared directly with Seiko in that moment, right? Or it allows me to hear what Seiko or Giselle has been going through, and applaud them on the success, or applaud them, or help them along the way, right? And there's videos that I send like, it's been a struggle this morning for me to do this, right? And then in their MSP video sending back, right, they will give me the advice, or maybe it's the next day saying like, way to go on this, try this. And it's constantly like working together to, we all want to be successful and be able to serve others and impact the world. So that's one of the groups that I have there, right? I also have a family chat group, right, where my parents are on there, brother, sister, and we're sending photos and of Charlotte, our daughter, doing certain things. And it's getting reminded that, oh, that's awesome that you guys are doing this, but also getting texts that are like starting to shift like my mentality, my thinking. Where I just got a text, I shared a video of Charlotte, I don't know, I think she was dancing just a few days ago, right, dancing around the living room, and I sent it to my mom in our little group thing. And she sent back her like, oh, that's awesome that she's doing this, cherish these moments. And then she also like tagged in like another text saying that, yeah, I noticed that she has tons of toys and they're on the ground right where she's at. And because they're on the ground where she's at, she sees that, maybe you could start teaching her how to be more organized, and start to have her put away her toys after each session, or each time that she plays. Teach her that little organization at this young age. And then she said, seems like she has a lot of toys. Maybe, one thing you can do is start having her appreciate the non-materialistic things in her life. Maybe you don't have to buy her every toy that you want or that she wants. Right? Maybe take her outside more often and appreciate the things that are already here, right? Some of the things that, my parents gave to us when we were growing up, she's sharing that advice because that's stuff that I forget about and then that I'm not passing on. So right? So little pieces like that that just make little shifts in the group that you're at. I'm also part of, Facebook groups in for business and professional development, right? Where there's a few hundred people in there. I don't know many of them. I might know one or two people, but I don't know 99% of them. But it's a place where I can share, like, this is the success that I'm getting, right? My personal life, the business life. This is the struggles that I'm getting as I'm trying to do this. And it's so open that everybody shares this stuff, right? There's like hundreds of posts a day that people are sharing, and we're all looking at certain people's success and commenting on what they're doing. And there's been numerous times that I post like a struggle that I'm going with, and somebody from a totally separate industry would pop in and go ahead and think about it like this and give me sometimes the solution doesn't work, but it changes my perspective to start figuring it out for myself. Or other people, they might give me, oh, go ahead and do it like this. And then that is the thing that made me shift 180 degrees the other way. So, figure out like where is it in your group, or what kind of group can you set up that's going to give you that support for growth. And as we kind of figure out how do we develop these communities and groups, right? I really like this gentleman that I met in the fall, and I saw him at a few events that we've entered, that we went to. But his name is Randy Garn, and his background, well, I think he does a lot of things, but one of the biggest things that he shared that kind of associated with me is understanding and knowing the principle of the velocity of relationships. So it's taking your relationships and creating the relationships that you need to get yourself wherever you want to get to faster, and as fast as you can, right? So he kind of mentioned it more in the business sense, and how he scaled, $1 million companies into $1 billion companies just by relationships. But of velocity is, it's who are you associated with to get you to the next level? Do you even know the people that are going to get you to the next level? And he talks about, it's not necessarily who you know, but it's more on who knows you and what do they think about you, right? So the only way people start to know who you are and create a better image of like who you are is you putting yourself out there and being open, to the world, to the groups that you're associated with. And he calls the value of your relationships, just think of it as a relationship currency. What is your relationship worth, right? And if we're so like closed down into like the small group and we want to do everything ourselves, and we don't like venture out and just ask for help or give help where it's needed, then we're just so secluded that our relationship currency is what it is. But how do I make my currency bigger? How do I make my currency far greater so I can start associating the people? It's not just, I want to go associate with, Tiger Woods, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, because even if they knew you, like what value do you have for them, right? And what can you, like, who are you to them, right? So think about, if you want to be associated with the next level, like who do you need to get to that next level, right? How do you make your currency of your relationship even more? And the only way to do that is to start getting outside of your little world and think that we're going to do it by yourself. Is you stepping out to help other people, you setting up communities of your own, and might start off with your friends. And if it's going to be around golf, it's going to be like, well, I'm going to get my group of friends that I always play golf with and create this community in here. And then we're going to start helping each other, invite them in and say, we're going to start this little golf community where we're sharing the things that we're doing great so we can all learn from each other, but then be open enough to start to, let each other know about some of the struggles that we're working on. So maybe someone in the group, right, tends to want to help you, right? And you're always helping each other. But how that group grows is everybody starts to get more impacted, where, you know, all of a sudden somebody that you might know might invite another friend into the group, right? Who may not have been a connection to you, right? And they start building, and then they invite more friends, right? So then it expands your little peer group to get associated with people that can grow the group bigger and take your group to the next level. So it's, you know, to increase the currency of your, you know, your relationship. It's kind of chat about it a little bit, but like a plan, or like a, I guess, a strategy to live by, or like a value to live by. You know, it's to give just to give. A lot of times we live in this world, right? And then Randy talks about it. We live in this very, very transactional world that, you know, I want to do something for somebody to get something in return. I'm going to give my thing out this way because I want this transaction coming back. And when you create these little communities, we're not giving for a specific transaction. We're not giving so we get help back. We're around people that are just like us, that want to achieve higher and more things. So you're giving advice, you're sharing your peace of mind, your perspective to them, because you want them to get better, right? And the reciprocity comes back, where like when you're struggling or you need help, right, you let them know, this is what I'm struggling with, right? And everybody in there is giving back to you to get, you know, the most out of what you want to get out of it, and to elevate everybody. So, you know, do as much as you can, you know, for others, and start to build this little community for yourself. So as a final tool here in this one is, who are the top 5 people that you can start a group with today, right? Who can you text now to start a group, even if it's with 2 people, even if it's 3 people? Who can you start a group chat with now to start building this community, and start to invite people in, so you can start sharing all of the success, start sharing all of the struggles that you're going with, so you can support each other and help, you know, everybody grow as they all come up. Excuse me. And on the other side are, what are the top 5 relationships or people that you would like to get, or that you need to get you to that next level? Who are the top 5 people that are going to take you to the next level, right? So a lot of times, one, we don't even think about relationships in our lives that we already have, that we're not building to grow. And we also don't think about like, who's like the next 5 people that I need to know to get me to my like next level, whether it's in golf, whether it's in school, whether it's in my life, that I just need to be a part of, right? If you don't know the next 5 people that you need, a lot of times you might have one of those 5 people that fits that profile that you would invite into your group already. It's someone that you may already know, or it may be somebody that is in relationship with a friend of yours that you might invite in. So, you know, write these things in your journal to say like, who are, right, your top 5 people that you can start now, at least, and then the top 5 people that you need, right? And work constantly on building, you know, your relationship group and your support group. So, you know, eventually, you know, you get yourself to the next level. And, you know, on a side note here, there's also going to be people in your lives that don't fit, right? They don't take you to the next level. So, you know, as a bonus, you can also write in, who's the number 1 or number 2 people that are constantly in my life right now that's always dragging me down. It doesn't mean that you're going to disassociate from them. If, you know, if it's a family member, you're not going to say, I'm never going to talk to them about anything. But those are the people that, you know, you're not going to share the things, the success, the new ideas, the new things that you're implementing in your life, because those are the people that are going to constantly say, you know, that doesn't work. You don't want to do that. oh, I've seen that somebody else try that. That won't work. You might as well not try it. So think about who's the number 1 or 2 people that are constantly like that in your life. And those are the people that you want to have conversations about other stuff. Maybe talk about the things that they're working on instead of share some of the excitement in your life and then have those people like pull you down. So think about those, right? Top 5 people that you can start tonight, top 5 people that you need for the future, and create a little plan of how you're going to get there, and what's maybe a little bonus, who's the number 1 and number 2 people, or number 1 or 2 people that just kind of constantly drag us back down no matter what. So we won't share like the stuff that we're working with them. We'll just talk about the stuff that they all want to talk about. So that being said, I do want to get a short little call here on a hot seat. So let's see. We'll have Giselle jump in this one. So excuse me.
Okay.
Oh, Giselle, can you hear?
Yeah.
Ooh, I can't hear you. Hold on. Is yours unmuted on your side?
No.
Hello? Oh, got you.
Okay.
Hi, Giselle.
Hi.
All right, so we went through a few different tools today, but it's on building momentum. So what's an area in your golf game that you have found tremendous momentum on?
I think my driver shots.
Your driver shots? Cool. And so if we look at your driver shots, what are your top, maybe what's your number 1 thing that, or I guess before we go down that route, you found lots of momentum with your driver. How did how long have you been working on your driver to get the outcomes that you have right now?
For actually like a really long time. So I think like, let's say a year.
So a year, and you're finally getting the results after close to a year.
Yes.
To achieve what you've been wanting for the driver. Okay. And obviously in a year, if you've been working on it, you've had tons of ups and downs.
Yes.
And now it's finally in a place that we could say, like we always are saying, I want to be more consistent. So it's in a more consistent place with the clarity and the picture that you thought about, right? And you're finally getting it there.
Yeah.
So what's the number 1 thing for you that helped you stay, on track, on pace to get through those moments of struggle and discouragement when it wasn't going right, and to take like some of the days and moments and weeks that you hit it really good and kind of stepped on the gas to make you get there faster? Like what was the number, if you could sum it up to 1 thing or 1 little thing or mindset or tool that you did kept you on this journey for 1 year to finally get where you're at?
1 thing I think helped was to never give up, because you never know when you could actually get like a really good score on your scorecard, or whatever. Or if you do bad, you never give up, because you also can pass too.
Okay, cool. And then if we go a little deeper into like never giving up, like how would you get yourself, or maybe a little tool or trick that you gave yourself, like, because obviously we can tell everybody just don't give up, but yet we still give up in certain areas. So what's one thing that helped you to never give up when you told yourself don't give up?
Like, do you mean like practicing? Like,
it could be anything. Like, so anytime like you felt like it was hard and you told yourself like, well, don't give up, like what got you not to give up?
Like, that's a hard question. Could you give me like an example?
So here's an example for me. So if one thing that I've been working on recently is being able to shoot like a little video, like a little training video, um, and record it. And so my struggle is when I get in front of the camera, like, it doesn't matter like how much I'll have prepared before, like my mind goes blank because I have this connotation that like, oh, do I sound kind of bad? Or I sound off? Do I look funny? Do I look like I'm reading a script? Why do I look so stiff, right? All of that stuff's going in my head and I can't just speak. And like the advice has always been given to me, like, well, just speak like you're speaking to an audience. You talk to people all day long. You're even doing live calls and like you're speaking to them. So just do it like that, right? And as simple as it is, and I don't see the other person on the other side, or I don't see like the connection on the other side. My difficulty is like, oh, how do I look? I got to get this all. I just forgot what I was going to say, right? And then I'm always cutting it, right? And I'm just trying to shoot this little 15-minute clip on how to do something. And so I understand the concept of like, there's like the advice is, you just got to get version 1 out, right? That's the common sense to me. If I get the first version out, then I can go watch it and come back to, okay, now what looked off on this thing or what looked good, right? I got the message out, and then what would make it look better, right? But for me, it's like I have such a hard time getting through like version number 1. So one of the tricks that has helped me is behind like my little camera, I put like a doll behind it. So now I'm speaking to the doll as I go. And I've tried tons of different things. I've, put a little sticker next to the camera and talk to that. And it still didn't feel right. But this time we have like this little wooden Japanese doll, and I shifted it to the left here. And I'm looking at that. So as I'm looking at that, it's getting me to like relax and smile because I'm like, man, this is so funny because I am talking to a doll. But that little trick alone for me is what helped me, get version 1 out. Obviously, I'm gonna have to watch it and cut some of it, but then put it together to how I want to see it. But I know for 100% that's not going to be the one that I'll post out there. But I'll get it out. And it took me a very long time. It took me a couple of weeks to get version 1 out on a 15-minute video. I can tell you I've gone through it probably 30 or 40 times trying to shoot that thing, whether it's a selfie holding it up just to get my message out. And I still do the same thing, and cutting it after like numerous times just after my introduction of saying who I am. Right. And I finally got through version number 1 this past week, right? And using that little trick in tool. So, for me, it was like a little more tactical strategy. But for other parts, like working on my golf game and getting my driver to where I wanted it to get to. I worked on probably 6 months straight before I kind of got the results that I wanted to, right? What got me to hit it every day is me doing some research on other people and finding the success that they got so early on. What are the things that gets them, right? And so that would be like a little trick for me. Like I just noticed that other people could do it. Why not me? Right? I have accessibility to certain tools that many people don't have. I have access to the tools that many of the best players have. And, so I had all the resources, and then just seeing that other people have done it before me gave me like that little confidence to say like, oh, maybe I'll just do it then. Right. And then, reshape a little bit of the strategy based on that. So that would be kind of examples that I've had, over the recent times. Is there anything like that to get?
I actually found one thing that helped. One thing that helped was also writing in your notebook and like writing your thoughts down helped, because like if you're having like a rough day, like you can write all your thoughts down in one book and you can tell your feelings to it. Not tell your feelings to it, but writing down your feelings swings to the in the notebook.
Okay,
So it resets your mind a bit.
perfect. So just kind of like the journaling aspect.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Giselle.
no problem.
Sharing. And I do want to get one more quick one. So thanks, Giselle, for sharing. I know we're a little over on time, but I do want to get one more on the opposite end. So we'll get Adriana on here. Hi, Adriana.
Hi.
How you doing this evening?
Good.
You look shocked. All right, so we'll go on the opposite extreme. So can you share with us one struggle that you've been encountering over the short term and how you're dealing with that?
Well, I guess my struggle has been my wrist because I'm only able to use one wrist. Is that what you're looking for? Are you looking for something more mechanical, like?
Anything, whatever you're encountering for yourself, because I want us to go through this process with you.
Okay, so then my struggle would be my wrist because I'm only able to use my one wrist, which can be frustrating at times.
Okay, cool. So just to kind of clear it up, you're only able to use one wrist because an injury?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what is the struggle that you're facing because you can only use one wrist?
Well, I was only able to do chipping with one arm for a while, which was hard at first, and then after a while I got used to it. But now, like with the full swings, it's hard to do it with one arm, and it's kind of like it's hard to not do any full swings. Like I just want to go out there and like swing, and I know I can't, and it's kind of just like frustrating. And I feel like I'm losing time. Like I'm losing time to practice.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna answer this and help you guys out in a way that probably be helpful to everybody. So if anybody, anybody felt like you're putting in time and something's preventing you from putting in the time that you know you should do, and you're running out of time because maybe you have an event coming, or maybe you have a season coming, or maybe you have some kind of deadline. And in every aspect, time is always something that we value the most because we can't add more time, but we can change perception on time. And if we can change our perception around time, then you can make the time that's spent more valuable than if you had more time. And what I mean by that is, have you ever, and it's for anybody, right? Have you ever had moments where you've gone through something and it seems like forever to get through? And then you look at it was only like a 5 or 10 minute thing, conversation, test, or something that you did. And you're like, oh my gosh, it felt like hours. And it was only literally minutes. And the opposite extreme is, have you ever felt where time just like you snapped your fingers and it was over? And then you look back, oh my gosh, that was an hour, that was 2 hours. But yet, in that little moments that it just flew by, we can go back and we can recall so much better. Like the principles learned, the ideas and strategies learned, the things of what to do next, as opposed to sometimes the moments that it feels like we're there for hours and it's only minutes because we're so distracted, we're so out of the moment that even though the time felt like it was forever, you can go back and you really don't even remember what they were talking about, or you don't remember what you were supposed to gain out of that thing. Does that ever happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you think about time is just a perception of what we make it. And so even though we're limited to resources, and we're going to say you having the ability to use both wrists is a resource that you have. If you think about how can we become more resourceful and gain the benefits of just using one hand, that could then take you further when you have the ability to use both hands. So you actually, it creates some discipline in your practicing that would accelerate the process when you get the use of two hands later. So if you had both hands, you wouldn't have gotten there faster if you had both hands than if you have only, the use of one hand now. So for example, like how long were you practicing with just one hand?
I don't know how long it's been. 3 weeks? Has it been 3 weeks?
3 weeks? Okay, perfect. So imagine taking that 3 weeks. And so Tiger is like one of the big names that is known for practicing just with one hand, whether it's putting, chipping, and there's other tour players that just practice with one hand as like a little training tool. And so the amount, if you tie it into like what is it that I'm gaining just by using your right hand, right? That versus your left hand. And if I start hitting putts with just my right hand, if I start hitting chips and wedges and pitch shots and approach wedges with my right hand, taking full swings just with my right hand, what is the principles that that's teaching me, right? And then you're just getting an understanding and immersed in that aspect of it. Now you're learning like higher level tools of what your hand does to control what the golf club does. And when you bring both hands in, you have a better response. You have a better understanding of what you're trying to do and actually doing it because you did it with one hand. If we reverse it and say, you have use of both hands. Now, one of the drills that you need to do is, let's say, to strengthen your right hand, and you got to hit these little chipping drills with one hand. How committed would you be to doing that, right? If we look back and say, like, how consistent and what's the consistency and longevity behind that, right? And then just say, the drill, let me just chip some with my right hand to get this, and you just do it for 2 minutes, right, every day. Versus you kind of don't have access to that, so you're doing it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, all the time that you're practicing, right? And in that moment, you're getting yourself to be more present because you don't have the control that you do with two hands. You're a lot less on autopilot in that moment. So although it's frustrating and it's hard at times because we've never done it with one hand, could you look back just 3 weeks ago to see if it's much easier today than it was on day one?
Yes, I think for sure.
Perfect. So if we look backwards, sometimes we just have to look backwards and say, like, as frustrating as it is, and if we look at the gains that we've made over the last 3 weeks and looking backwards, that oftentimes helps with frustration. And maybe our frustration is, I just want to hit it with two hands and just want to be able to swing it. Or sometimes that eases that frustration would be to pose on the negative to say, well, I could definitely hit it with two hands, but then if I re-injure it, then I'm out. Instead of 3 weeks, I'm out for 3 months. And if you live in that consequence to say, like, am I willing to wait a little longer and think that if I just continue to work on my game with one hand and build these skills up, that it's going to put me in a lot better place where if I hit it today, I know I can hit it today. And if I get to it too soon, it puts me out for 3 months, for 6 months, because now if I can't do it for 6 months, what would that make me feel like? And all of a sudden, it makes a little bit of shift into like how we feel, and we're not dealing so much with frustration because now we think, Did the doctor or the therapist tell you like roughly how long more?
No.
You're doing it, is it week by week?
Yeah, I go once a week.
So week by week, but every week is it getting a little bit better where he's giving you a little bit more to do?
Yeah.
Perfect. So you're seeing, so then again, looking backwards, you're seeing progress from nothing to now you said you can chip with both hands and hit some wedge shots with both hands, not really full shots, but every week it's getting better. So if you look at the light at the end of the tunnel, like you can say like next week might be the week where I can do like a few full swings and maybe the week after that, a few more, or as opposed to, man, I can just do it all now because it feels good. I'm going to give in to that frustration, but then if I hurt it again, then I'm out for 3 months, for 6 months, or maybe it's going to be permanent where, you know, I'm constantly going to be battling a wrist injury, right? And then that, you know, sometimes takes away a lot of the immediate frustration because we want to do it today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So sometimes just dealing with our limitations that we have now, it's looking backwards to see like, what is it giving me for the future? And there's a ton of skill to be gained today. And in the last few weeks being limited to just one hand, because it's things that I probably wouldn't have committed to for this long, but I had to given my circumstance, right? We can always find the extreme positives and this extreme growth that's created from unfortunate situations that come up. And then, you know, if it's more of a frustration thing where like I just want to do it because I can't, right? Then you look into the future to say, well, if I do it too soon, am I willing to deal with a little bit of frustration now and figure out and get so honed in on the skills and values that I'm getting out of this today and the patience that I'm developing today and not have to go through this big extreme frustration when they then say I can't do it for months at a time. And again, we can't predict the future, and we can't say that if you rest it and then come to 100% that it won't get injured and you'll be out for 3 months. But you can probably guarantee the fact that if you do it too soon, it's going to take you out for longer because you don't get progress. Your progression hurt a little bit early, and you have to sit out for a few days, right? And then you played, hurt a little bit more. Once you felt it was recovered, then you're out for a little bit longer. So every time it got hurt, right? You mentioned that it's recovered 100%. So then you were out for a little bit longer during that time, right? So you can kind of see how the more you injure it while it's injured, then it just gets, the repercussion becomes worse longer down the line. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So thank you, Adriana, for sharing that. And so for everybody, I hope that was helpful where, you know, sometimes we do get frustrated, but we just got to look backwards sometimes and see the gains. Sometimes we get unfortunate events or unfortunate circumstances that cause us to like do something, right? Sometimes it's, it may not be an injury, but maybe it's a transportation issue where I just can't get to the golf course. But then that gives us opportunity in the most unfortunate circumstances. We often find the best solutions and best resourcefulness to get us to the next level. Because if there's a week that we say, oh my gosh, I don't have any transportation to get to where I'm at, or the weather's bad and it prevents me from practicing, right? Those are like oftentimes the best times to figure out like, what can I do to still maintain, or not even maintain, but to develop my skill? Can I do something at home indoors, right? Can I be putting? Can I be chipping in the house? You know, we found games growing up through unfortunate circumstances where we learned to chip and pitch with ping pong balls and learned how to control ball and spin in the house because we were stuck in the house for periods of time where we couldn't go to the golf course. And we learned, you know, at, I don't know how, 8, 9, 10 years old, how to hook the ball, draw the ball, spin the ball backwards with ping pong balls in the house because we were stuck in the house because we couldn't go anywhere. during those years. And it became something fun that we would do like throughout high school, put baskets in the house and hit ping pong balls and try and like make it backspin into it, make it curve to the right, curve to the left. And the older we got, we gained more control where we tried to curve it around the wall into the baskets, right? So through some of the most unfortunate times, right, we come up with the most creative and resourceful things. And so if we get stuck in like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do this, then we're not able to think of, there's always somebody in this situation that have found massive, massive success. What could that be? And how could I design that? Even though at this moment, it feels so unfortunate. It feels so, bad. I feel so frustrated. Those are the moments that you have to dive in, dig deep to say like somebody's gotten out and made tremendous and massive success from where I've been. And how do I do, or what do I need to do to get myself there? And that'll help a ton. So I hope this helps for everybody. And again, going back on a few things that we did is, spend the next 5-10 minutes or so just taking the things tonight on what served you, and just work on that one thing before you go to bed tonight. All right, 5 or 10 minutes just to get that thing started and create that one shift for tomorrow. Things that we learned tonight is just take an audit of your beliefs and stories. Get yourself what are success stories and the limiting stories, and take those success stories and how can I build that into, something that you do on purpose. Take some of those limiting stories and change the stories around. So every time letting those limiting stories be triggers. So every time that comes out, you're reassociating it to a more encouraging way, a resourceful way to get what you want. Looking at, next level, your best part of your game, the thing that excites you the most. For me, it was driver. Take driver and make that driver better, or take your best game, make it better, but also take the thing that you can save the most shots on and make that level up. So next level your best, because that's where you're most excited, and just take your most struggling aspect and just level that one up at a time. So you're trying to make next level and just level up, right? And so you're creeping the entire curve up. And finally, start to build your like-minded support and growth community. Who are the 5 people that you can start this evening to, be in that group? And who are the 5 people that you need to be in that group to take you to the next level? If you don't yet know that, you should have that written down. Think about that tonight. And as a bonus, who are the 1 or 2 people that's in your lives that are constantly pulling you down when you're trying to share success with? And those are the people that you want to label as, people that you can still associate with, but maybe not share the things that you want them to be excited about, and save that for the group that you design. So thank you so much for joining. Oh, excuse me. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you all at the next one.